Thanks.
And Sue, you started recording, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's call this to order and start the roll call.
Trish.
Present.
Sandra is not here. I'm here. Deborah.
Present.
Lynette.
Here.
Jan.
Here.
James.
Here.
Larry. That'd be you, Larry.
He's muted.
He's here.
Oh, he got muted again.
Okay, I'll find
All right.
him.
And then after Larry is Tim is not here. Jim.
Yes.
And Yael.
Here.
Okay, Trish.
All right. Chairpersons Announcements. Our co-host has back to school night and remembered a little bit late tonight. So we have a couple of members at back to school night that will be coming later. So Sue and I are going to try to be the co-host and lead the meeting at the same time and let people in. So it may be a little crazy. You may not have our attention at all times, but this is what we're going to be trying to do. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. If you're new to Locac, I'm Trish Bartel and I'm the chair. We also have all of the Zoom cheat sheet on the top of the agenda. So go ahead and take a look at that. Alt-Y to raise your hands. You know, if you want to dial in, that's *9. Phone mute and unmute is *6. So that should help. That is the only comments I have. So let's go to county and local reports. Let's start with Sergeant Langston. And we will.
I've asked him to unmute.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm using my phone. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks for having me. So I'll go over the stats with you. This is for the time period of July 1st through the 31st. Call for service were 67 versus 74 last year, so a little slight tick down. 6 assault battery calls, nothing, no major injuries on those, just mutual fights without medical attention. There's 44 disturbance calls, just because the Locac meeting is at the end of the month and we report on July, that will capture some of the 4th of July calls. So that is for that there were some fireworks calls and party calls during that holiday weekend, which is fairly normal. There was no burglaries. There was 4 thefts, 6 vandalisms. Those were actually, majority of those were neighbor disputes on whether the property belonged to one party or the other. 7 mail thefts, that's starting to tick back up. I'll touch on that in just a minute. 2 phone scams, 34 suspicious circs. The deputies did 36 enforcement stops, whether it be a car, a vehicle, a person, or a bicycle, etc. And then preventive patrol 38. Those were just whenever, like for instance, at the schools, we've had some reports that things were going on there overnight, or loitering, or high profile places in Los Osos that the deputies just check on a regular basis. I wanted to touch on the mail theft aspect. I would not giving anyone advice, but I would highly recommend, if you don't have a locked mailbox, to please consider investing in one of those. I know it might seem like a small thing getting your mail stolen, but I promise you the things that can happen from that mail stolen are much worse. People's identities get stolen. And then it comes to a point where you've gotten all these accounts open in your name, and it's a huge fight to just prove who you are anymore because someone's basically stolen your identity, and it's tragic to see. So I just don't want anybody to take that super lightly because it is a serious thing. The other thing that's not captured in these statistics, because we're talking about July, but excuse me, there's been a rash of vehicle thefts from unlocked vehicles. So I just want to encourage everybody to please remember to lock your vehicles. It's literally often as simple as that. People will go around and just check door handles and take whatever you have in there. So just the simple act of locking your vehicles goes a long way to prevent those type of thefts. Happy to answer any questions as usual.
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, yeah, I've got a question. Is the sheriff still helping with neighborhood patrol or neighborhood watch, whatever it was called?
Yes, we for the most part I'm sorry, our SAVP, those people do the house checks, if that's what you're talking about.
No. They used to put signs up on a block or something where the neighbors all got together and they put together a neighborhood watch.
Okay, yeah, we have those signs available, so feel free to stop by the substation there in Los Osos whenever you have time.
Oh, okay. I know they put a program together for that, and I've had a few people ask about it. So
We should have whatever signage you need, and if we don't have it, I can definitely get it for you.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have any other questions from the committee? Do we have any questions from the public? Please raise your hand. Paul has raised his hand. Let me find you.
He's top left.
Oh, there he is. Thank you. All
Hi.
right, Paul.
Thank you. Yeah, Sergeant, the unhoused residents on Palisades in vehicles, I believe it was yesterday, had 8.5 by 11 leaflets posted on their vehicles, informing them of the vehicle code law that requires that you move your vehicle every 72 hours. It's my understanding that that was just a notification of the law. It's not actually a notice to actually have to start doing that, since it's just a leaflet and not an official ticket or whatever. It's not really an official document. Do you know when that and if that official ticket will be distributed?
I can't give you a specific date, but I do know that our department's working very hard to try and balance the issues that some of the community has with the unhoused versus the issues the community has with supporting the unhoused. It's a very divided group, and we're trying our best to come to some type of middle ground. We definitely have the safe parking lot opened on Kansas Avenue out there by the sheriff's headquarters. So we're definitely encouraging people to take advantage of that if they're willing. We're obviously not forcing anybody to do so. It's just weighing and balancing the issues of, say, a community member saying, well, they're violating the 72-hour rule, do something about it, versus having some compassion for them being unhoused and maybe not being able to move their vehicle. So that was our first step at an educational approach, just making people aware of it. And if they can comply with that, then we won't have an issue. No one's definitely going out trying to put a stopwatch on that. It's just basically an educational approach of, just so you know, this is a law, so please try to comply with that, so that we're not forced to write a ticket if it comes to that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the community? All right, thank you very much.
Lindy
We
has her
appreciate
hand up.
your time.
Lindy has her hand up.
You learn to use
Okay. Not on this. Okay.
Lindy, use your hand up thing.
Okay, Lindy,
I
I've asked you
did.
to unmute.
I have unmuted. And
Yes, you're unmuted.
under reactions, it's a thumbs up or a clap. So I did a thumbs up. I don't know how else. I don't have a hands up.
No, if you look at underneath that, there's a bar that goes across. If you do reactions, you see all those things on the top, the thumbs up and all that, and right below it, it says raise hand.
Not on mine.
Oh,
Click on it. Click on it.
okay.
Lindy, click.
Okay, let's just ask the question so we can move on, please.
I heard there was quite a scuffle on Palisades with people that were tent camping on the property adjacent. And the people in the residents of the campers having a kind of a stand up against the sheriffs. And I just wondered if that was something you could talk about. I'm a little concerned that things are getting kind of escalated out there.
Sure. So there's Palisades, which we're taking one approach with. The property to the west of Palisades is actually private property, and the property owners have asked us to admonish the people camping there that it's private property and they need to leave, which they definitely have a right to do, as would anybody that owned property and somebody was trespassing on it. However, we're trying to give them ample time. They were served with notices that it's private property and that they need to move off of the private property, along with some resources. Our unhoused liaison, Deputy Knowles, was out there personally and gave them information about the safe parking area and also some resources. We're giving them ample time to try and relocate. I'm sorry, I don't have the document in front of me to know the exact date that they have to be out by, but because the landowners did request them to be removed, we do have to follow through with that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening.
Next up is Captain Klingenberg, and I am asking you to unmute, please.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I have to report this month in the Los Osos Valley area that we had 8 collisions. 2 of those collisions involved DUI drivers. The first collision occurred on July the 10th in the vicinity of 2030 Sobrero Drive. That was a solo vehicle collision that struck the drainage culvert. No injuries in that. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 injury on the collision, just the driver of the vehicle. And that was a complaint of pain injury. The second DUI collision that we had was on 11th Street at Napomo Avenue. That was a 2-vehicle collision. There were no injuries involved in that collision. Again, that was a property damage only. DUI driver was arrested as a result of that collision. The 6 collisions that we had that did not involve DUI drivers, we had one on Los Osos Valley Road west of Sunset Drive. That was a non-injury collision involving 2 vehicles and an unsafe turning movement as a cause of that collision. Then we had a collision at Los Osos Valley Road and South Bay Boulevard. Also a non-injury collision. This one involved a hit and run. An unknown vehicle struck another vehicle as a result of an unsafe lane change. The third collision was on Los Osos Valley Road. This one is it's at Los Osos Valley Road and Foothill Boulevard, kind of closer to San Luis, but Los Osos Valley Road is such a heavily traveled roadway to and from Los Osos that we included in our Los Osos beat reporting. And that was a 2-vehicle collision, minor injury. I believe that was a complaint of pain. Yes, it was a complaint of pain only collision with the cause being an unsafe speed where one vehicle rear-ended another vehicle. We had a collision on South Bay Boulevard, south of Napomo Avenue. This involved 3 vehicles. There was a complaint of pain injury involved in this as well. And the cause of this collision was also an unsafe speed where a vehicle rear-ended one vehicle, pushed it into a third vehicle that was ahead of the second vehicle. We had another collision on Los Osos Valley Road, more in the vicinity of Los Osos itself, near Marguerite Park Road, or I'm sorry, Park Drive. A 2-vehicle collision. Those were both complaint of pain injuries, so minor injuries. And that was a right-of-way collision in that intersection as the cause. And then the final one that I have to talk about was on South Bay Boulevard, north of Turi Road. 2-vehicle collision. involving a moderate to major injury collision. This was a result of an unsafe turning movement and a bicyclist at that location. So that's a summary of the collisions that we had for the month of July in and around Los Osos. And I'm certainly happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council members? Any questions from the community? Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it a lot.
Okay. Carrie Brown cannot be with us tonight, so we are going to go to Kristen Erickson from the County of SLO. She's going to talk to us about redistricting would be a better word.
That's correct. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kristen Erickson with the County Administrative Office. I'm here with my colleague Morgan Torrell, and we're going to talk to you today about our redistricting process for 2021. If I'm able to share my screen, we do have a presentation.
Yep.
Okay. It's saying it's disabled. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me try again. Huh. Entire screen. All right, that's up. Share. Huh. All right, let me cancel and try again. All right, why don't you try? It says that you should be able to.
Looks like that's working. Thank you. All right, so what we would like to cover today is just kind of a general overview of what redistricting is and why we do it every 10 years, what our governing law is currently that governs our process, and then what our specific county process is going to look like this year. And then we're going to look at our proposed timelines and hearing schedule. And finally, we're going to show you some ways that you and the rest of the community and residents of the county can provide public input to the process. So what is redistricting? Essentially, it's just equalizing the population among the districts after we get census data and updates on our population. And the goals of that are equal representation, or how effective anyone can be at advocating for themselves, and one person, one vote, so an equal ability to elect the candidate of your choice. Now, population equality is based on the total population, not voting population, not citizens. But it is going to, this time, the first time, not include those who are incarcerated within the county who would not otherwise be residents here. And the rule of thumb is that the total deviation between all of the districts cannot exceed 10%. So what does that mean? If we look at our district map here, and this is our most recent data, this is 2020 census data. We don't have the full and complete data yet. We also don't have the prison reapportionment data from the state, but this is as close as we know to what it's going to look like. And we show here that the deviation is the amount of difference between what it would be if we divided these 5 districts equally. How much above or below that line are each of these districts? As you can see, District 3 has the largest deviation. They're under by over 3%. That's underlined by me because I think it's not a hard and fast rule, but generally speaking, the courts look less favorably if there's any district that's higher than a 3% deviation. And then our total deviation, as you can see over there, is 8.43 because we're just adding up all the numbers. We don't use negatives when we're adding those numbers. Technically, that means that if these numbers hold even after the reapportionment data, legally, we may not have to redistrict, although I don't foresee that being the case. And then below that, you can see our citizen age voting population. It gives you a sense of how many people in each district are eligible to vote, not necessarily registered to vote. And there are several laws that govern our process, most importantly, the US and California constitutions and the Voting Rights Act. Nothing new here. They just prohibit diluting racial and language minority rights by denying them an equal opportunity to nominate and elect the candidates of their choice. Essentially, it prevents those visions you see there of cracking or packing. You can't draw lines deliberately to break up a minority voter group in a community in order to diminish their influence in each of those districts. Neither can you creatively draw one district to encompass the entire community if it doesn't make sense, other than to make sure that they're only within one district. And of course, we cannot use race as a criterion in drawing districts. In addition, this year, our first census with the California Fair Maps Act, designed to pull some of the politics out of the process and enforce what was always considered best practices, but now it's codified into California law. And so these are the 5 considerations that we have to consider in order of priority. First priority is that they must be geographically contiguous. I mean, the image on the left is kind of obviously not contiguous. It's not even touching, but the image on the right you see there is actually a submitted district that was drawn in California years back. And the courts said that's absolutely not contiguous. Sure, it may be technically connected, but you've clearly drawn this in order to exclude some communities. Our second consideration is that we should maintain geographic integrity of existing neighborhoods and communities of interest. And we've been striving to gather as much public input as we can on communities of interest. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And then the third consideration is to minimize division of cities or census designated places. Fourth is that our boundaries should be easily identifiable, like by a street or a river, maybe a freeway, that people can easily recognize. And then finally, we cannot favor or discriminate against any political party. In addition, the Fair Maps Act has some pretty broad public outreach requirements. We are required to have at least one hearing before maps are drawn. We did that in July. If anyone's interested in seeing that hearing, we do have that on our redistricting website. I'll show you in a bit, and that you can watch the video of that hearing. We also have to have 2 hearings or public workshops before the adoption of final maps. We are planning for those in October and November. And one of these hearings has to be held on a weekend or after 6 p.m. on a weekday. And that's to ensure that everyone can participate if they would like to. In addition, it makes clear that we have to take specific steps to encourage all residents, including underrepresented and non-English speaking communities, to participate in the process. And Morgan will talk a little bit later about our efforts to ensure that. And Morgan now will give you a broad overview of our county's process.
Okay, let's see if we can find her.
I think I can control the screen. She just needs to be able to speak.
I know, but that's the problem.
Is she administrative office?
She may
Yes.
be, yeah.
I asked her to unmute, Trish.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Morgan Terrell. Thank you, Kristen, from the administrative office, working with Kristen on this. I'll talk a little bit about methodology and timeline here. So on January 5th of this year, the board directed staff to use a county staff advisory committee for the redistricting process. It was the process used in the last 2 redistricting efforts, and it uses staff expertise and knowledge of communities for drawing the maps and determining legal boundaries and legal advice. The board also approved recent budget appropriation for a contract with Redistricting Partners, who's a consultant helping staff to analyze the data and with map compliance, and also a sub-consultant to help with Spanish translation and outreach services, for example, print ads, radio ads, and social media posts. Redistricting Partners is one of the few consultants in California that works extensively with local governments and cities, community colleges, and other special districts for redistricting. Next slide. Here are the community departments that are working on this effort together. The administrative office is managing the overall process. And then these departments, planning and building, public works, county council, IT, are working in a variety of capacities and to support the efforts. And the clerk recorder's office will ultimately implement the new boundaries in preparation for the next election. And next slide here. I know this is a lot. It's hard to see, but this is the timeline as of now. It's been changing, but as of now, we are required to adopt, the board is required to adopt revised maps by December 15th under the Fair Maps Act. It could change, but at this point, we're still operating under the current requirement. The first hearing took place on July 20th, as Kristen mentioned, and it was focused on hearing about communities of interest. And what those are, the definition legally is a population that shares common social or economic interests that should be included with a single supervisorial district for purpose of its effective and fair representation. And communities of interest do not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. A couple other things, census data was released in August in a legacy format that's not really usable by us yet. We should have usable data by the end of September, and that should include the adjusted prison inmate population, as Kristen mentioned. Again, this is the first time it'll be adjusted that way. The next board hearing scheduled to provide public input is October 26th at 6 p.m. This is all on our website, which Kristen will show you in a couple minutes. So the dates and all the recordings are all there. And then there's 2 meetings scheduled in November 19th and November 30th. And our final adoption of the maps are scheduled in December. Next slide. And circling back to communities of interest. So the county is still accepting public comment, general public comment, as well as communities of interest in preparation before we draw these maps. Some examples of communities of interest are listed here. You can see ethnic and language minorities, LGBTQ plus communities, senior citizen students, and then urban, rural, coastal communities. An important thing to note on these is, in order to be a community of interest, they do have to legally be mappable. So it's something that actually could be considered on a map. And Kristen will now cover how to access all of this information.
Oops, sorry, Kristen.
Thank you. Yeah, so we wanted to make sure we were doing as much outreach as possible, and I'll give Morgan a minute at the end to let you know about some of the direct outreach we've been doing. But another method that we have here is that we've created a web page for everyone to visit to get redistricting information and to get a vehicle to provide input. Let's see if that works there. There we go. And this is our redistricting web page. Gives a ton of information about redistricting, but also gives, as you can see, several ways to submit public comment. There are also FAQs that you can use. And on this website is where you can find all of our board hearings and public workshops. Anytime that there's a board hearing at which we've brought an item, it'll be featured here. You can see the item, the attachments, as well as a video. Is it not? Is the website not sharing? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, let me try to. How about now?
Now we have your slide presentation.
Okay, you still don't have. Okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't. I don't know how to make that stop. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, well, if anyone would like to know how to navigate our website, I'm happy to discuss it with you. We have a lot of great information on there. We do have all of our board hearings. This is the URL that you can get to the website on. And we also have, you can read other people's public input that we've received so far. We're posting that on a regular basis. And you can also find places to submit maps. We have a mapping tool, which currently is only allowing for mapping of communities of interest because we don't have the final data. However, if you would like to try your hand at mapping your community and submitting that, we have that tool available to you. And if you save your map, then it'll be available for the public to see as well. In addition to our website, we have a redistricting email, a dedicated email that you see there, as well as a phone line for anyone to call for if they need assistance, have questions, or would like to provide input. And again, there's our hearing schedule that Morgan was talking about earlier. So of course, everyone is welcome to provide input at our public hearings. Each of them will have Spanish translation and Zoom participation, with the exception potentially being the last hearing in December. And that's because at that point, the final maps would have already been decided upon. And really all we're doing at that point is having a hearing to pass the ordinance. adopt the ordinance. However, if people do want Spanish translation in Zoom, they can request that within 72 hours and we will accommodate it. And then Morgan, I just wanted to turn it over to you to talk about our outreach that we've been doing in the community.
Okay. You have been asked to unmute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we have a consultant, the sub-consultant I mentioned that's helping with us with Spanish translation. So there's radio ads, print ads, social media posts, and also there was a social media kit that was emailed out to, I think, probably around 150 organizations and cities and other interested parties that can share their information with their clients or stakeholders as well. So there's extensive public outreach to try to get information out about the process and our hearings. And Kristen, I know that website's not working, but if you are interested, the website has quite a lot of information and the mapping tool like Kristen mentioned, and you can kind of see where the numbers change. It's still in the process right now of getting all of the current information in there, and hopefully in about a month or so, we'll have it ready to go. But there is some capability right now just to look at least areas and numbers from 2010, right?
Right. And yeah, well, yeah, they have the American Community Survey data in there right now. So it's from a couple of years ago, but also, yeah, we are going to have a full district mapping functionality once we get the final data in, and then that will allow you to just draw districts and send that in, as well as communities of interest. And that really concludes our presentation, although Morgan and I are happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from community members?
We have Lynette.
I'm a Locac member. Would we be able to get that presentation, that PowerPoint presentation, to be able to post it on our website?
Sure, I can send that over. Blake, can you help me out with that?
He's muted, so.
Okay. I assume that Blake will be
Yes.
extremely helpful in getting that done for me. Yeah, I can send that right over to him.
Thank you.
Yeah, Blake is wonderful. He helps us all the time.
Right.
Any questions from the community? Okay, I don't see any hands up. All right, thank you too. We really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
all of the information.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Daniel Del Rio was supposed to be joining us tonight, but maybe he has back to school also with his children. So he is not going to be here, but I did ask if he could attend next month's meeting. We did send him all of the emails that we received from the community and from the committee members. So he does have that. The one question that he did ask is, what are the specific code enforcement needs for Los Osos? And then a few tangent questions from that. So what I'm going to do is send that out to all committee members so that I can get responses back. And then also we'll put it up on our website so that if there's anyone in the community that would like to answer his questions, we can pull all of those together, get those questions answered to him prior to the next meeting when he can join us. Does that sound all right with everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then next we have Josh Roberts, County Public Works, the Los Osos Road Impact Fee Study. And let's find Josh. There you are. All right, ask to unmute. There you
Hi,
are.
good evening, everyone. This is Joshua Roberts. I'm the Transportation Division Manager in Public Works. Like Kristen, I also have a presentation, and this is on the 2021 Road Improvement Fee Study.
Okay. All right, you should be able to share.
And hopefully that's everyone's seeing my screen.
Yes.
So again, Joshua Roberts with the Transportation Division. And my role at the county is overseeing traffic operations and roads maintenance. With me tonight on the line, available for questions also, is our consultant, GHD. So I'll run through a brief presentation on the road improvement fee for Los Osos and then take any questions that you might have. So going back to maybe back as far as 2018, 2019, staff started preparing to bring this update forward. And again, this was really as a companion to the community plan update. And just as a reminder, the basis for this traffic data is similar to what was performed in the community plan update. So it was prior to the 2019 pandemic. And so the data is actually considered to be normal, quote unquote, traffic information. So tonight, presenting the 2021 Road Improvement Fee Program. The main purpose of this study and really road fee studies in general is, number one, estimate the adverse traffic impacts due to growth in the community. Two is then to identify those improvements that are needed to correct those adverse impacts. And then three, to establish a fair share fee to be paid as mitigation at the time of development. And the framework for these fees here at the county is in Government Code 66,000. Some background on this study is really described best here in the introduction section of the study, but I'll be covering a lot of this information here tonight. The fee study boundary is contiguous with the community plan boundary, which you can see in the background. The road fee nexus studies are often confused with more in-depth traffic studies. And so what is a fee study? Well, the fee study is really a reflection of what's shown here in the general plan, or in this case, the community plan, particularly those areas that are anticipated for development or other community growth. So it's really a macro level study. The study is not a comprehensive traffic study or a circulation planning tool. Here in Los Osos, that planning work took place during the community plan process. And again, this study is intended to estimate the improvements and their fair share costs to mitigate traffic along corridors and at intersections, which would be adversely impacted by that anticipated growth. The most recent fee study was adopted in 2009. So why update the fee study now? Oh, well, there's a few reasons. First, the county does routinely update these these fee studies, and it's really mainly to calibrate the study. We want to align with the needs of the community. Several of the projects that were identified as needs in the 2009 study have actually been either fully or partially constructed. And then finally, the community plan update adopted in 2020 forecast a smaller build-out population of about 18,000 versus the original 28,000. These factors, particularly the population variance, were expected to impact the future improvements needed to support community growth. In 2009, there were 19 projects totaling about $12.5 million, or the equivalent of $19 million in today's money. Those were anticipated for all the way through build out. Projects number 1, 3, a portion of 5, and 15 listed here have actually all been completed. So what's in the new fee study? Back to my comments about calibrating the plan. The new study takes into account projects constructed since 2009, as I just noted. The new study also factors in the population projection of 18,000. And the previous study served somewhat as a community circulation plan and as a fee study. And now with the circulation element being a part of the community plan, this new fee study really focuses on the projects that are just needed to support growth. And then finally, consistent with the recent fee studies in other areas of the county, a flat per trip fee is being proposed. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a couple of slides. Here's the 2021 fee study project list, factoring in the revised growth projections in the community. and the projects constructed to date, the projects list is down to about a dozen projects. Probably most notable is that widening of South Bay Boulevard to 4 lanes is no longer necessary to support community growth, as was the case in the previous plan. So something of note in this new study are the roadway extension projects, like the extension of Skyline, and that was proposed in the community plan. These roadway extensions are primarily project specific. They're not really needed to support growth in other areas. However, acknowledging that those projects will impact circulation, the segments projected along LOVR will look at those intersections like Pine Avenue, for instance, and make the improvements needed at that time. So really what that means is we can't guarantee that development will come along and build these extensions like Skyline, but as the community grows out and the need for like segment projects, for instance, from Palisades to Pine on LOVR, if it's determined that intersection improvements like at Pine are necessary, we will go ahead and construct those. And so then again, while the fee study lists those projects which are community betterments and or specific to development, those are non-RIF projects or non-road fee projects, and they're also not eligible for fee collection under the plan. The new proposed flat fee of $3,449 would become effective on or before March 1st of 2022. And those would become subject to routine indexing. And this is consistent with board policy adopted in 2019. Again, also consistent with other areas in the county. So as mentioned, county staff recommends adopting a flat per fee structure. The proposed fee structure allows for a project specific bypass to be applied on a project by project basis, rather than just a flat across the board rate, which can be somewhat disproportionate in cost sharing. And here I kind of give an example of what I'm trying to explain. And here this example that I'm showing highlights how the current fee structure charges the same fee for 2 businesses that generate different net peak hour traffic. In the new fee structure, new business or new development pays their actual impact. And in the end, the county still collects the same total fee amount and the businesses are treated fairly. So again, back to this example, our generic retail A, such as like a discount store that has a gross 10 peak hour trip, they would have the ability to apply the standard ITE reduction rate of 20%, which would yield about a $28,000 road fee versus say our retail B or like a gas station. Again, they may also have a 10 peak hour gross trip generation, but since they have a much higher bypass rate of around 60%, they would actually pay a lower fee of around $14,000. And this is I think a really good explanation or demonstration of how this is a fair fee structure in terms of its project by project. And really at the end of the day, it does not really benefit the county one way or the other than we're basically collecting the same fee amount. Something I also wanted to note here and point out was that in addition to requesting that the board would adopt the new fee study, staff will also be submitting concurrent with that the annual fee balance report. And a summary of the 2019-2020 report table is shown here. And this would happen separate from the standard reporting for the other road fee areas. So looking forward to the adoption of this plan. We're going to present this study to the Board of Supervisors before the end of the year. And again, as I just noted, will be separate from the 2021 fee balance reporting for the other fee areas in the county. What we'll be specifically asking from the board is adoption of the study, adoption of the list of projects, and then this fee amount of $3,449 per trip. that's the end of my presentation. Thanks, everybody, and I'm available for questions.
All right, are there any questions from the committee?
You planning to ask anything?
Bruce?
I'm going to raise my hand. I just can't find it yet.
Okay, Sue, go ahead. You're the first hand I've seen.
I'm sorry. I have two quick.
Yael, could you mute yourself if you're gonna be talking so we can hear Sue? Thank you.
I have two questions. The first is the adoption of projects. If we choose to support this adoption of projects, this is only about projects that have been discussed previously. It's not changing. It's not admitting that there aren't other projects that we might like to have done someday that are not in the works. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's really the distinction between this fee study and having the community plan recently adopted. So for instance, the community plan provides the vision and lists a lot of community desired betterments. This fee study and the list of projects are just, it's a math equation. It's purely the list of projects that's necessary to be implemented to support the community growth and maintain the board's adopted level of service policies.
Okay, so we are not saying we never want to talk about other things, or we're not putting ourselves in a position not to be able to do that. We are just okaying these that are going on now.
That's correct. This is listing the minimum. This is the minimum work that we believe is necessary. And again, these community plans build out over, frankly, dozens of years. And this is our best estimate of what the future looks like.
Thank you. Okay, and then we're also supposed to adopt this fee structure. I'm sorry, you just went straight over my head. This fee structure, who pays these? Have they been paid in the past? Is it just altering payments that are just being calculated differently, or are new people going to be paying? Like, who pays the residential fee structure things? Is that you understand my question? I don't know.
Sure. Fees are, and this is, I'll give you the basic answer. Fees are collected when a permit is issued. So for instance, if you are a business owner and you're going in to intensify a business use, it used to be a law office with one or two offices, and now it's going to become, say, a med stop that sees a lot of traffic. You would pay a fee along with your permit based on the amount of traffic that your new business is generating. So the fee is only collected on new businesses or new development. The residential, where it lists residential. So when folks come in and pull a building permit for a new structure, not an existing structure, for a new structure, they would pay the residential fee. And for a residence, the standard residence generates 1 peak hour traffic.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Any other hands? Bruce?
I just wanted to add to that. I really appreciate Josh being here. But I want to make sure we understand the connection between the community plan and the road impact fee. And this is the fee structure for that. The idea of this is, if the community adds development, what would we have to do to keep the circulation system going to serve that development? But it is not driving the development. As you all know, the community plan is awaiting its certification at the Coastal Commission. And there's a question as to just how much development can be reasonably supported. These fees don't kick in, aren't paid by anybody until new development is proposed. And the other thing that I don't know, I didn't think I caught it, Josh, was the explanation of the pass-by discount. And in commercial properties, that has to do with if you're going to visit a business, how likely is it that you were going to be out on the road anyway? And in the example that Josh gave, the idea, if you go to the discount store, you may be just going to the discount store. And so you might, they should pay a heavily burden. But if you're going to the gas station, the studies that that all this is based on suggests you might be doing something else. So the gas station itself shouldn't necessarily bear all of that. So it's a little detail there that gets down in the weeds when people actually come to propose this. But it's important. In the whole premise of this is to try to fairly assess the extra cost of improving the road system to take care of things as we increase development here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, Supervisor.
Any other questions from the community? Lindy, let me find you. All right, you're being asked to unmute.
Okay. Hi, Josh. I'm trying to get clarification too. I know that the ale house, I believe it is on Los Osos Valley Road, turned from being a loan office to a restaurant location. And I heard that they were charged almost $30,000, and probably because it was a whole new use. And then we have a dollar store coming in. So I wonder if you could kind of balance out how road use fees would go, because the Dollar House could be one of those things that they go to the shopping center for other things. The Dollar Tree, I think it's coming in. Just questions, I'm curious. And then for instance, I think it's B&B Doors put in a whole new entrance to some property that they bought, and there was no existing road. Are they going to be charged for a fee too? Because they'll have some heavy traffic coming in and out of that, I think.
So thank you, Lindy. Those are actually three good questions that kind of cover three unique areas. And the first is the conversion of business. That's similar to the example I gave earlier, going from let's say a law office to a medical center. So the new business pays the proportional increase in traffic, and it's on a per trip basis. To your second question about a new business or new retail coming to town, similarly, they would pay a road fee proportionate to the number of new trips that they're generating. And then, as Supervisor Gibson pointed out, they would also be allowed to apply what's called a pass-by factor. And for instance, in Los Osos, under the previous or the existing plan that was adopted in 2009, everybody got a 35% pass-by reduction. And that's, while it's simple for businesses, it's also not fair to when you're comparing unlike businesses. So in the instance that you gave of, let's say, a dollar store coming to town, they would pay their peak hour trips, and they would be allotted, or they would be allowed to take some sort of reduction for pass-by, which usually for a retail is such as that. They're pretty destination oriented. And similar to the example I gave, they may only have a 10 or 15% reduction. Most people who are going out to retail are seeking that versus stopping out of convenience. But they do get a slight reduction because there is some convenience trips. And then the last question that you had about constructing where there isn't a road, oftentimes the development is either fortunately or unfortunately burdened with doing both. They are required to install the improvements that are necessary to support their business, but they're also going to generate traffic in other areas of town, like on South Bay Boulevard or out on LOVR. So they would still be subject to their proportional road fee.
Thank you very much. We have Dave and Bev for a question for Josh.
Hi, it's Dave Bolus. Can you hear me?
Hi, Dave.
The first thing that I just wanted to mention, I think this was established at the traffic and circulation meeting last week, but this is only about vehicles, right? It has nothing to do with passengers, with pedestrians or bicyclists or anything like that.
Yeah, that is correct. It's a vehicle congestion equation.
Okay, and coming from that, I'm just wondering if whatever models are used to generate the planning, if they really apply to a place like Los Osos, where we have narrow streets and shoulders that aren't walkable, and on-street parking that there's not much room for either, and driveways that exist on like a 50-foot average spacing on both sides of the street.
The answer is sort of. So the speed and the manner which vehicles use the roadway is not entirely a factor in when they put the model together. However, if the configuration of the roadway is such that it creates congestion for those vehicles, again, regardless of speed, then yes, the geometry of the road does become a factor.
Okay, and the final thing I wanted to ask about is you showed the non-fee projects, and as you mentioned at the traffic and circulation meeting, I guess those are supposed to benefit the community, but mainly serve the development. And I just want to comment on a couple of those items. The first one on the list is an extension of Ravenna from Los Osos Valley Road down to Ramona. And it seems to me that rather than merely serving development that happens up in the Morro Shores area, that will attract traffic looking for a direct route between Los Osos Valley Road and Baywood, or San Isabel and the way out of town on the north side. And so my question is, it's going to be a north-south collector as far as I can see. And I'm just wondering if that is a street that could be, if it must go through, if it could be designed so that it meanders or does something so that it won't simply be an alternate to Pine Street, Ramona, 4th Street, and 7th Street, Ramona, sorry, 9th Street, Ramona, 7th Street, and so forth, which are obviously inconvenient for north-south transport, but having a straight through route down Ravenna would be real attractive to a lot more people than just the development. And the same thing goes for extending Skyline. That's another east-west connector that would serve a lot more, it seems to me, than just new development that would happen out there. So my question is, if they must go through, can they be made so that they don't just become collectors for east-west and north-south travel by everybody in town?
That's an issue that we would have to take up at the time that development came in. To the question about are they necessary to support future of the community outside that development area? No. And that's why those projects, although they're listed as being identified in the community plan, they're not in the road improvement fee study, because they are technically not necessary for growth. So again, we do see those as purely development serving, not intended to be, let's say, high-speed roadways or being collector routes. Otherwise, they would be in the road fee program. But again, kind of going back to my comment about, I believe it's table 9, where we identify some segment improvements on LOVR, because we can never be certain that those improvements will take place. We do want to be in a position to at least improve the community itself outside of depending on that development.
Okay, thank you. And I don't see any other hands up from community members. Can I ask one more, Trish?
Yes, one more quick one, please.
Okay, the funds that you showed at the Traffic and Circulation Committee showed that there was something like $70,000 in the fund for RAF fees. And it looks to me like on the top of the list of fee projects, there's $600,000 worth of projects. And I just wonder, many of those projects are things that we need now, like for instance, what's happening on Los Osos Valley Road west of Palisades, where we need those median left turn lanes and things. So is there any way we can get those things to happen before hundreds of thousands of more dollars accumulate in this RAF fund?
The reality of the situation is that the projects come as the fees become available. So for instance, when we constructed the intersection improvements on South Bay Boulevard at Napomo, that new traffic signal, we were fortunate in that we were able to partner with Slocog to put funds into that program. And don't quote me, I think that they were about a 30 to 40% funding partner for that project. We recognize, Public Works, that it's often difficult for communities to collect road fees fast enough to catch up with the needs. And so we are always looking out for ways to partner through either state grant programs, local grant programs, highway safety improvements. And that's really the reality of how these projects get built. If we have to wait until the account balance gets high enough to build a project, that could take a dozen or more years. So I don't have a straightforward answer, but we hear you and we agree with you that the need typically, especially in these largely built communities, the need precedes the available funding. And there are other sources, and thankfully we've got partners like Slocog where they can pull in funds to support these projects.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Josh, we have two more. Next is Javier Soto.
Hi, my question is, the situation on Palisades, we already putting road improvements. How is this situation going to impact us? Because there's more traffic, but it's not ours.
I guess I'm sorry, could you restate your question?
So the situation on Palisades is so bad that more traffic is coming down Palisades Avenue. We already paid in road improvement every tax season. Will that increase our taxes or will it stay the same?
So while the current traffic that's on that is on Palisades, it would not necessarily be a factor in this fee program. We're not going to raise this road fee particular to Palisades.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, next is Lisa Danker.
Yes, hi Josh. My question is about improvements or slowing main artery roads. Do you, on your programs of projects, do you include landscape and treescaping, urban canopy renewal? Is that a part of like slowing traffic? I know it works in some other towns. Is that something that is linked to any of these projects?
No, it is not. Not directly from this fee that's being collected. This fee is developed to mitigate only the traffic that's being, the extra traffic that's being generated from development. Mm-hmm. However, we do often look for funding through grant programs that would include streetscape, largely because you get a win-win out of it. You get your project built sooner than you'd hoped, and you get the beautification factor that goes along with it. No guarantee that those things would happen, but we look for partnering funds anywhere we can.
Well, we've had I'm sorry, go ahead.
But streetscape is not a requirement of this program.
Okay, well, Los Osos has lost a lot of trees in recent years, so there is a need there if that could be considered. Thank you.
You bet. And then I would clarify that projects are, although the fee is being collected specifically to mitigate traffic, as the projects come along, we are required to construct those consistent with, any and all environmental requirements that are in place, stormwater mitigation requirements, and then for particular for Los Osos, if there's community design requirements, just like development, we have to comply with those as well.
Okay, we will take one more question, the one last question, because I think we have absolutely run out of time. So Patrick, please unmute and you'll have time for one question.
Thank you. Josh, I'm sorry, I got in late, so you may have already answered this, but you say that the fees are to mitigate development. What development are you specifically referring to? Thank you.
So the road fee is collected as mitigation for any new development that comes in. And so new development would be defined as any land use, vertical construction, or intensification of use.
Okay. Thank you very much, Josh. I really appreciate it. Very informative tonight.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, we are now Supervisor Gibson. You are on. If we can unmute you. I just saw you. There you are.
There we go. Thanks.
There we go.
And thanks again, Josh, for that. You've had two fairly meaty presentations here. I won't take too much of your time, as I know you got a few other things to talk about tonight. I think probably the thing, not probably, I'm guessing that the thing front top of most people's minds is the situation on Palisades. And what I want to emphasize there is that we are taking a balanced approach to correcting the situation there. As one of the questioners to the sheriff indicated, notice has been delivered to the folks who are parking on the street, as well as those who are camping on the private property, those being two different situations, but that those efforts are starting to indicate that folks will not in the long term be camping or parking on in the area of Palisades. The balance comes from, at the same time, we're working to make sure we are developing the resources that are going to take care of the needs of those who are in this situation and provide a path for them to get to transitional housing. So we've talked about that a little bit before, but the approach is going to be outreach, notification, and eventual required relocation to alternative sites where services can be connected and to folks, and that they can have that path toward permanent housing. So tomorrow it'll be 2 weeks since the safe parking site at Kansas has been up and operating. I want to thank many members of the community who've had interest there and have done a lot to make it a somewhat more inviting alternative. The community support has again been tremendous. There have been a lot of folks who are offering suggestions as to how that site can be improved, and our staff is looking at that. At the same time, I've been working with staff on making sure that we're still on a track to continue to expand these resources. We need more safe parking because this is a countywide issue and the solution is going to have to be countywide. On the enforcement side, the challenge on Palisades is that the only ordinance we have, as the sergeant indicated, is the no parking for greater than 72 hours. That's rather a cumbersome and frankly not a really strong enforcement technique, but the Sheriff's Department working with the CHP is going to start that enforcement. We are readying the ability to tow, for instance, if there's inoperable vehicles who cannot move. We're going to try to work toward a program where we could offer them a free tow if that vehicle would go to the Kansas Avenue site. So we think there's some incentive there. And at the same time, I've worked with staff, and they are developing a no overnight camping ordinance for Los Osos, similar to ones that exist in a number of other communities. Cayucas, Sociano, Avila Beach has them right now. We expect that ordinance to be before the Board of Supervisors for passage as early as our last meeting in September, which is the 28th. If not, then it would be the first meeting in October, which is the 9th. So with that in place, we will have a rather stronger tool to require relocation to one of these alternative sites. So I've been in contact with quite a number of community members trying to explain this. I realize that the progress there, the visible change on Palisades, is going to be, for most people, frustratingly slow. I am frustrated as well. I would like to see these folks relocated to a place which would have proper sanitation and other services. And I would like to see the public spaces of Los Osos reclaimed and to be safe, secure, and inviting. So again, know that we are continuing to work on this. I hope that in coming weeks, we're going to see noticeable changes there. And we've got quite a number of county staff, from the sheriff to the admin office to a number of others engaged on this. I think given the hour, maybe the other items I have are relatively minor. So let me stop at this point and see if there are any questions.
Are there any questions from committee members? I don't see any hands up. Any questions? I don't see any hands up. Any questions from?
Oh, Jim's hand is up, Trish.
Oh, okay, Jim?
Bruce, our chairman of our in-house committee, James, sent you a letter with some issues. I'm wondering if you're comfortable talking about that letter.
Sure. We've got that letter, and the same, more or less the same set of suggestions came from a community member as well. And that's been, that letter was sent to our staff who are leading this effort, and all of those suggestions are going to be reviewed. I can't tell you that every single one of them is going to be adopted, but there are some in there that staff tells me they're already working to address.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Yael.
Bruce, as you know, if you visited the Kansas site, it's almost full. It's at night, it's almost like 75 or 80% full. During the daytime is more like 60% full. So even if you force people from Palisade to go against their will, which it will not be easy to do, or if even possible, it's not an answer to people on Palisade. It is, however, a pretty good answer for the people that are using Kansas. I mean, we stopped by there today earlier, and quite a few people are very happy to be there. So I think that the county did a good job in that. It serves quite a few people. It does not serve, however, the people in Palisade. So we are still, the county needs to find a site that the people from Palisade will be willing to go to. And one of the things we put on the letter to you is that the county needs to engage the people that we are trying to help, because they are the ones who know the best what they cannot do, what they can and what they cannot do. So we want it to be successful. Everybody wants it to be successful. People on Palisade are very unhappy to be there. They don't want to be there. But
Yael, do you have a question?
No, I'm having a conversation right now with the supervisor. I'm just saying the question is, okay, if you want a question, is will you please check the site that we mentioned to you in the letter, just west of the the sewer plant. I know there is problem with the sites, I'm aware of it, but I would really urge the county to look at them because they are in a good distance for people from Palisade to actually use it. So we want it to be successful.
On that, so first of all, in response to your general commentary, I will say that's exactly the idea behind what I was saying about needing to develop more resources. We need to continue to develop more safe parking resources, and the success of Palisades or of Kansas is part of that. We are addressing a phenomenon that apparently folks who are simply traveling through have found Kansas Avenue, and we're trying to address the fact that that's not the intent of Kansas Avenue, to keep those spaces open. As to the parcel that you're talking about, Yael, we've had an extensive conversation back and forth, and I'll just be honest with you that, and the council here, that site is not under consideration for a safe parking site because there are restrictions imposed by an easement that comes out of the sewer plant. So we'll be looking for resources at various sites, but right now that is not one of them.
Thank you. Next up is Paul Hirschfield. Okay.
Yes, good evening, Supervisor. The unhoused folks who do not have vehicles and who are residing in the bush, some in tents, some completely exposed to the elements, have been noticed that they have approximately a week to leave. And I understand the whole private property thing, a week to leave, and then their stuff, if it's not removed, will be removed for them. And I guess thrown away.
No, and stored, Paul, and stored.
Okay, that's good clarification. Thank you. The only question is, where are those people supposed to go? Because I know quite a few of them, and quite a few that I know are not in a state of mental health that will allow them to do things like go to 40 Prado.
Mm-hmm. So that's the object of extensive outreach that's been going on, very similar to the relocation of folks who were encamped on the Midtown site. It's the same idea, and that's the same, and the reason that there's a fairly extended time frame between notice and required relocation is that we have our homeless services providers interacting with them as they have for quite a while. Our sheriff's CAT team is interacting with them, and we're, those groups who have the access to the resources that could help those folks are the ones who are trying to find alternatives. I will say that situation is part of the argument for developing a sanctioned tent encampment, which is another thing that I've been advocating to staff about, and is one of the things that comes out of the recommendations of the Homeless Services Oversight Council's recommendations on addressing the issue of encamped folks. So all of that, very, very important issues that you raised there, and all of them are being very seriously considered by those who do know where those resources might rest.
Thank you. Next question is with Patrick McGibney, and you.
I was going to say Lindy's had her hand up for a while.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go to Lindy. I'll hold on.
No, that's right, Patrick. I'll get Lindy next.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Supervisor Gibson. Dealing with Title 19, the rewrite, has the consultant for Title 19 been hired yet? If so, who is it? How much is it costing, and who will pay for it? And if they have not been hired yet, when might that happen? And why is the county using the old metrics for offsets when they have already admitted that they don't work and it uses more water? Thank you very much.
So first of all, we haven't admitted that the old offsets don't work. We are going with the best available information that we have. And so far as the information upon which those were based, those are reasonable numbers, and we will proceed. I really don't know about the details. I know that Blake is listening in here, and we'll have him track that down, and we can get that information out to you and the advisory council. I do believe that audit is underway, but I don't remember the details of exactly who's doing it.
Okay, I have emails that are from the county planning that tells me that the offsets do not work. One of them is the amount of times washing machines are used by our local community. That's 392 times a year, which they say is totally unreasonable. And the other offset that they say does not work has to do with the amount of water that the washing machines are saving. So that's why the revamp is happening. And I have those emails if you haven't seen those yet.
Well, I'll accept that as your commentary on that, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Next is Lindy. You've been asked to unmute.
Hi, Bruce. I'm concerned, as Yael is, because I've been out, and the encampment at Kansas is pretty much filled with, I think, one person from Palisades is there out of some 35 vehicles at least. If Martin versus Boise holds over, if we have no place for the people on Palisades to be moved off, do they get to continue staying? Because Martin versus Boise says that it's up to the county to have a location to receive them, and now it's full. And I also wanted to know if we could get a point person. Carolyn Berg, I understand, is leaving, but those of us that are trying to donate trees or do some improvements there have no one to talk to really. And can that be something that gets set up? Because I think the community has a lot of good input and raise money to help with some of the needs. So
we've certainly appreciated the engagement of the community, Lindy, and you know, we are working to do that. In the meantime, if we're having trouble getting connected, we can always contact the office and we'll figure it out. Indeed, we should have a point person on all these things. And that your point is exactly what I was saying, is we need to continue to develop these resources. And I'll be having conversations with staff, perhaps as early as tomorrow, but probably more likely next week, to see how we're doing. We need to make sure the resources are being used for the purpose that's intended, and not as a highway rest stop by those who are otherwise simply traveling through. And so all those things are absolutely the case. If we per Martin versus Boise, if we cannot provide a reasonable alternative, we cannot enforce against an individual who's occupying public property to house themselves. So that's a given, and that's why we have to dig in and keep moving forward. The Kansas Avenue is not the end of this. This was the start, and so it's going to take a commitment from the county, and I think we certainly realize that.
Okay, one more. Sorry, but one more question for Supervisor Gibson on the unhoused, because we do have a really great unhoused committee report that's going to be done very soon. So if this is directed just to Supervisor Gibson for him, then let's do one more question, and then we do need to move on. And right now is do you want to?
I'll hold off for that. Yeah.
For the committee meeting? Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other questions for the supervisor? All right. Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sure. CSD report. Who's here for CSD?
Troy Gatchell is here. His hand is up.
Okay, I see it. Ask to unmute. Thank you.
Good evening. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. So the CSD update is as following. The Basin Plan Program Seawell. The district is proposing to construct a new lower aquifer well at the district-owned property located at South Bay Boulevard and Bay Oaks Drive. The well is part of the Basin Plan's Program C, which shifts groundwater production from the lower aquifer in the western area of the groundwater basin to the central area. The shifting of this production to this area, coupled with the shifting of production to this area, coupled with decreasing pumping in the western area will induce less seawater intrusion while increasing the safe yield of the basin. The environmental document prepared for the project was reviewed by the board, and a mitigated negative declaration was adopted at the August board meeting. Next steps to work with the county on the necessary permits before moving to construction. The Basin Plan Program A on 8th Street Upper Aquifer Well Project, notice of award. Another well project that has been in the works is the 8th Street Upper Aquifer Well Project. The well is part of the Basin Plans Program A, which pumps upper aquifer water and is either treated or blended with lower aquifer water to increase the overall production into the district's water system. The well was drilled back in December 2016. Equipping the well was delayed when the district decided to apply for Prop 1 grant funding to complete the project. The grant was finally approved this year, and the project is now moving forward. It is estimated that the project will be completed in the fall of 2021. Transitioning to by-area elections by November 2022, the district held its first of 5 public hearings on August 5th to determine if it will move forward at large to by-area elections to comply with California Voting Rights Act. The public is invited to participate in the process of determining the area boundaries. The second public hearing is on September 2nd. Visit the district website for more information. The joint water purveyor letter regarding water availability for accessory dwelling units. The Coastal Commission via the county has requested that the 3 Los Osos water purveyors respond to the commission with a statement of water supply availability for ADU development in Los Osos. The purveyors decided it would be more effective to write a joint letter collectively expressing water supply concerns related to new development and added demands on the groundwater basin. The draft letter was conceptually approved by the board on August 5th. Some minor edits have been made since the board meeting, and the letter should be sent to the county and Coastal Commission by the beginning of next week. CSD would also remind the community of our drought. We're still in a level 3 drought, which is considered extreme. The district remains in stage 3 of the water shortage contingency plan. So please pay close attention to your water use, limit outdoor watering as much as possible, and always check for leaks around your home and yard. If you need assistance, please call the office at 805-528-9370. And that's the CSD update for tonight.
Thank you very much, Troy. Any questions from the committee? Okay, any questions from the community? All right, Troy, thank you so much. Lynette, Chamber of Commerce report.
Yes, hello. Visit our new website. It just launched this past week, lobpchamber.org. We also have a new logo. We have a committee working on Oktoberfest. We are hoping we can do one this year. And I don't know if Jim Stanfill went to that meeting. I did not. Maybe he can fill us in more on what is planned for Oktoberfest.
At this point, it's still pretty much in flux. The committee kind of went back and forth on it at their meeting, but nothing definitive was said. It has to go back, conversation we had has to go back to both Amada's board and the chamber board to make some decisions about going forward.
Thanks, Jim. And that's really all we have this month.
All right, thank you very much, Lynette and Jim. Now we're on public comment for items not on the agenda. Are there anyone from the community that has an item they need to discuss or would like to discuss? You would have 3 minutes. Okay.
Lindy's hand is up.
Okay, and so is Javier's. Let's start with him, Javier, and then we'll go to Lindy.
I just wanted to know if the Locac is trying to find any kind of financial support for those who've been affected by all this situation on Palisades that have been having a very negative situation financially because of it. Have you guys thought of that?
No, but let's let's talk to the Unhoused Committee on that
Okay.
one. That would be a good location for that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Lindy. Okay, Lindy, I'm asking you to unmute.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I can't. Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up this big concern I have of a lot of building permits that are going through that I feel in the past they would have gone to Locac land use, so we could review and give them our blessing or our comments. I found one ADU type construction, which turns out to be bigger than the house that it's supposed to be an ADU to. And it's questionable where it even got through any kind of process, but it's under the ministerial stuff again. In other words, I don't understand why it's so difficult for the county to not provide that ministerial list to us. It's just a simple process of computer breakdown of saying, with these ministerial permits countywide should go to the Locac land use. I think it's really important as things are slipping through. Probably the thing that bothers me the most is that tree cutting is all ministerial. We never get a chance to see it. We have some beautiful old trees that at some point could be cut down because nobody's going to know that there was a permit applied for them. So I just urge the committee and if Mr. Gibson's on, to give us a chance to see what is going on. This should be complete transparency to know what kind of growth is being put in. And this ministerial thing has been a problem for me for years. So that's my
Thank you.
comment.
Thank you, Lindy. All right. Anyone else? I don't see any other hands.
Oh, we have one couple,
Oh.
two people, Eve
Oh,
and
here we are. Okay, so Eve. Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay, I just wanted to, related to what Lindy just said, wanted to remind you that at the last Locac meeting, the Larry Brender brought up the idea that maybe Locac would reconsider their authorization for the county to go ahead with allowing Morrow Shores to put in 10 new homes. And the vote was 9-2 that you would reconsider it at your meeting this month. And when I requested that it be on the agenda, I guess there wasn't any room on the agenda, but I hope that it will be on the agenda and that you will reconsider your approval of this because of our severe water limitations. Thank you.
Yes, we will absolutely put it on the agenda for next month, and I apologize that it didn't get on this month. Okay, Patrick. 3 minutes.
Thank you. This is actually back to Lindy Owen. Lindy, if you have information on ADUs or other buildings that are other projects that are going to be water demanding, please send them on to the, you can send them to me directly. We are appealing all ADUs that are being approved by the county that we know of. There's one that actually Locac approved last meeting. That was the one that is on Santa Isabel. That is going up before the planning department's review committee, I believe they're called, October 1st. If the planning department does approve that, we will be appealing that one also to the Coastal Commission. So please let us know of any ones that do sneak through. And we are on a list for the county for parties of interest. I don't know if they're going to send us everything or not, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Patrick, or Patrice, I'm so sorry. You have been asked to unmute.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been coming to a lot of these meetings lately and I haven't really spoken up. And frankly, it's the first time my raise hand reaction thing has worked that way. But I actually have two questions for Bruce Gibson. I don't know if he's going to be able to reply to these at this point in time. But the first question is regarding Kansas Avenue, people who are coming in not from Palisades, but just, hey, it's a free campsite, rest stop sort of thing. Is there any way to actually determine if someone's coming in, if that is their reason for coming in? And if so, can we just say, I'm sorry, this is not what this is about. We're needing to find a place for the chronically unhoused to be, and you're filling this up. Please don't stop here. So that was the first question. And the second question is, I'm just wondering why there was such a dismissive response to Patrick McGibney's pointing out that the comments regarding the inaccuracy of the water offsets that growth decisions are being based upon. So those are my two questions to Bruce, please.
Actually, this is not the time for that. These are just the for items that aren't on the agenda. I will let Bruce go ahead and answer, but those really should have been done when Bruce was speaking.
At your pleasure, Madam Chair. As to the question on Kansas Avenue, that's something we're looking into. We certainly, we certainly can try to work up a system that finds out a little bit more about who is using the Kansas Avenue site. Again, I won't say it's tricky, but it's just something we have to think about, and we want to again be sure that it is being used for those who have been unhoused and parking on our streets. And I think we can get there on that. And Mr. McGibney's welcome to his opinions about the water offset ordinance. I think the easiest thing to know is that the numbers that are part of that offset system are being reviewed, so that we will be using ones that are completely defensible. We set it up with numbers that came from that sort of analysis, and as we proceed with it, that was set up more than 10 years ago, back in 2009. And we're doing a check-in right now. And at the end of that, we will have numbers in that program that will achieve the goals that we set out to achieve.
Thank you very much. All right, I don't see any other hands. So we are going to approve the minutes from the meeting for July 22nd. Can I get an approval?
Yes, I will be the first to say, let's approve the minutes for the July 22nd meeting.
And this is Jan Harper, and I will second that.
Thank you. Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Hand. Okay, and my computer is frozen with your faces, so I don't know why. But the hands are great when I see those. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Let's go to Deborah with the treasurer report. And we probably.
I asked her to unite.
Yep, me too.
Great.
All right, great. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I'm happy to give you my report because I have some good news, and that is we're making some progress in getting access to our bank account at Mechanics Bank. And the reason we've had such a problem is because I discovered that in 1993, when Locac applied for their EIN, their tax ID number, there was no follow through with an application telling them what type of organization we are. So and because we never filed any taxes, they deactivated our tax ID. And so I have had that number reactivated as of Friday last week. And I have sent in an application. The application is for a 501c4 organization. This is a civic organization. I'll read you briefly from this IRS example of what a 501c4 would be: a community association devoted to preserving the community traditions, architecture, and appearance by representing it before the local legislature and administrative agencies in zoning, traffic, and parking matters. I thought that covered it pretty well, so that's what I went with, 501c4. I have sent in the application. I'm waiting for them to send back a letter of determination, which I will be able to take to the bank, and that will give us access to our bank account. So that's moving along. My report is that we have $1,742.95 in the bank account. We have $309 in outstanding bills that need to be reimbursed. We have a net of $1,433.95. I completed a budget estimate for this year. I used 6 months of meetings in person. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I used 6 months as my estimate. And based on that and other expenses like Zoom and post office box, I came up with a budget of $2,894 minus our net, which is already in the bank. I made a request for $1,461 to Supervisor Gibson, which he has approved and is in the process of sending us that money. So all things are good in the Treasury Department. And as soon as we get that letter of determination, we'll be back in business.
Great job.
Thank you.
That's been a lot of hours there.
It was really fun dealing with the IRS.
Lots of fun, lots of fun.
Can I
Well,
just
thank you
say
so
one
much.
thing, please? I just
Yeah.
want to thank Deborah. You guys have no idea. Every day they were asking her for something different, and she'd ask whoever needed to make whatever. Then we'd give her the paperwork. She'd go back. They'd change their mind and they'd want something else. I mean, this has been going on for a month now. So she's a saint as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Sue. Well, part of the problem is because they kept trying to find us in the system. And of course, we didn't exist because our number had been deactivated and we had never had any designation as to the type of organization we were. So it was just a dead end, essentially. So now that's, I think we've got a clear path forward and we'll just wait for them. Could take up to 60 days for us to get this letter. But in the meantime, we'll manage.
Great.
Thank you. Yael has her hand up.
I'm sure you did everything perfect. I'm just wondering, are the other CACs using the same kind of an account? The other, community councils?
The advisory councils?
Yes.
I don't know, Yael, and it's a good question. I did reach out to the treasurer from the Cayucas Advisory Council, but I didn't hear back from him. It's possible that my email went into a spam or something and he just never saw it. But I'll probably try again, and perhaps if Blake can reach out on my behalf, I'll get a better response. I don't know what other advisory councils have done, but to me, this seemed like the best fit and I didn't want to wait. I wanted to get it done. Just a side note, we will need to file a tax return. There's a form called a 990EZ. It's just a postcard. It's very common for any nonprofit to have to send in this postcard to let them know, this is how we spend our money. So that's what we're going to do.
I just have a question, and I'm sure that Bruce can answer. As far as I knew, we cannot have a nonprofit status, but I may be wrong. We cannot handle funding. We cannot pay people or raise funds. So, but I don't know what kind of account it is. So maybe we should let Gibson answer that. If he's been muted, unmuted. I mean, that's my experience.
Thank you. First of all, Deborah, thank you for all the struggles I know you've been through, and Blake's filled me in today on that. Madam Chair, I would suggest that before you get too far down the road of 501c4, that we do check with the other advisory councils and their relationship to their banks, because I've never run into this problem in 25 years, 27 years of working with advisory councils. This has never popped up. And so the only thing so first of all, it is Locac's choice how they want to organize themselves, and since you are a community organization. But my thought is that actually taking on the formality of a 501c4 might cause you to have to do a lot of overhead and accounting things, and there may be a simpler way. As I say, let's check with the other advisory councils. And again, I just want to make things as easy as we can for you, and for a long time, this has worked without this particular complication. So we're happy to help facilitate some conversations to find you the easiest path forward.
I appreciate that very much, and certainly open to that. I was definitely trying to find a path forward, and so far I've been reaching dead ends. So if there's another path, I'm certainly willing to look at it.
We'll try to figure it out.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Larry, land use?
I just want to say we didn't have a meeting this month, so nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Traffic and circulation, Jan?
Yeah, yes, Jan Harper, and what I'd like to do is make a motion that we accept the road impact fee study that the traffic and circulation group voted to recommend that to Locac. So I'd like to make a motion to do that.
Okay. Do we have
I'll
a second?
that. I'll second
Larry
that.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great. Got it.
Okay. It passed, Jan.
Thank you. And other than that, traffic and circulation is pretty much on hold until this COVID stuff comes down. And if there's something that comes from the county, then I'll call a meeting. As usual, if you have an issue that you notice about roadways or vegetation, visibility, you need to call County Public Works at 805-781-5252. And in my recent minutes, I also gave the number for the sheriff for any parking issues and the CHP for speed issues. So check the minutes, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Trees and landscaping, Yael.
Sorry. There's nothing to report. We're working really hard. We're actually making some progress, but there's nothing final to report. We're working towards getting all of the actors in the county to work to allow us to abate the dry weeds, so that fire risk will be avoided. But believe it or not, it takes a whole county department and people working very hard about getting the snail monitor and the this and the that, so that we can bring some fire security to the trail. For now, this is not even our work. The real work is still not even near.
All right, thank you. Sandra, outreach?
Nope, nothing to report, and love some help with the newsletter if anybody wants to learn how to do MailChimp and get it out. Let me know.
All right. Ad hoc water committee, Deborah and James, any updates?
There was no basin management committee meeting this month, so we have nothing to report on locally. As always, if there is important information that we feel would be helpful, we posted on our webpage on the Locac website. So you can always check there for things that bits of information that we think might be of interest.
Great, thank you very much. James, Unhoused Resident Committee.
Yeah, thanks, Trish. As a reminder, I'm one of 3 chairpersons for the Unhoused Residents Committee, Sandra Saroof and Jim Stanfield being the other 2, and I was tasked with chair responsibilities this month. We had a good meeting last Thursday. It was pretty well attended by the public. We also had our 7 committee members there, and there was a lot of engagement. So I thought that was a positive sign. We primarily discussed the Kansas Avenue safe parking site that had recently been opened, not maybe a week or less before that meeting. And so we let the community express how they felt, whether they're in favor of the safe parking site or opposed to it. And then there was lots of recommendations for how it could be improved, and lots, at least a few offers from community members to chip in themselves, either financially or with labor or materials to help improve that site. So I thought it was a really positive meeting in a lot of ways. And what came out of that is we developed, the Unhoused Residents Committee developed a letter of recommendations that we submitted to Supervisor Gibson, outlining ways to improve sanctioned encampments in general, and specifically the Kansas Avenue site. So Supervisor Gibson spoke about that a bit tonight, and we appreciate the county's efforts to develop Kansas Avenue. I think that, one of the things that is being demonstrated is that there is a need, since it is so full, and it's a desirable location for a lot of folks. So, I mean, the fact that there are so many people staying there, it demonstrates that it does work, and despite the fact that there are a lot of improvements needed. So I would encourage the county to develop more sites. And I would also ask that the county, coordinate with the Unhoused Residents Committee a little bit in advance of developing those sites, so that we can, in turn help coordinate with some of the folks on Palisades and say, hey, this is coming, and maybe you can go take a look and see if it looks like a desirable location to you. So the letter that we submitted to Supervisor Gibson is on the Unhoused Residents page, so people can take a look at that and see what our suggestions are. And I'll turn it over to Jim and Sandra if they have any additional comments.
I think Bruce indicated that he had received the letter that the committee had submitted and is having staff looking at those items. And certainly there are items that are on his agenda too. So that was good. It rang a bell.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think you covered it.
And that's all we have.
Thank you. Any council questions for the Unhoused Committee? Any community questions for the Unhoused? Javier? Okay. There you go.
So are you guys still going to recommend, I heard that State and Parks was still open till Charo area and developing some of the land that's back there that they haven't developed. Is that something you guys are still looking forward and following through, or not at this point?
In the letter that we recently submitted to Supervisor Gibson, we recommended developing additional sanctioned encampments, and we specifically mentioned El Chorro as a good suggestion.
But not the Chorro itself, but the land nearby. There was some talk that there is Parks and Recs had some land that was still not being developed. I don't know if that was correct information that we received or not.
I'm not familiar with that suggestion, but I think we'd be happy to listen to it. And it sounds like Bruce, he's got his hand up. He's probably heard something about that.
Yeah, so the question of El Chorro was discussed at the August 10th Board of Supervisors meeting. There are constraints, another parcel with constraints that the El Chorro Regional Park came to the county as a gift from the National Park Service, and it came with a deed restriction that it had to be devoted to recreation. There would be a possibility of expanding the existing campground and housing folks in RVs for extended periods, which would be a way of addressing some of the folks who are residing in their RVs right now. The thing is, I pitched that to the Board of Supervisors, and none of the other 4 supervisors were interested in that use occurring on El Chorro property. So for all intents and purposes, that's dead. We're going to continue to press on other pieces of county property that aren't similarly constrained, possible expansion of the Kansas Avenue site, and all the other opportunities. So we're full bore on every possibility, and I'll keep pushing on it.
Thank you. And the other is there any financial help that you guys are looking for those who've been affected by all this?
By who are you talking about that's been affected?
We have lost 28,000 this year because we can't have the festival. So that's a big chunk of our budget right there.
No, we have not discussed that, but I think it's something we could certainly consider. I mean, we don't have any money per se, and we're just an advisory council, so we could advise Bruce, I guess, to donate some money, but we don't necessarily have the ability to give you any money ourselves.
Or just information to where we can apply or something like that, because this year we're going to be really tight.
Yeah, I'll query the group and see if anybody knows anything.
Thank you.
I mean, it might be.
They know better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, has the church done a capital campaign, or maybe coordinated with the Chamber of Commerce or other businesses or something? And I know there's been a great loss, and so I could just brainstorm on the side, but how funds could be raised through some kind of capital campaign.
Well, we're thinking on going GoFundMe page, but I don't want to put too much pressure on you guys because we're not trying to make it look. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but we are just an advisory group, so we don't have the funds for that.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Next up is Patrick.
She's just ignoring me.
No, you're up after that. I'm going by the line. Yael, you're next.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This question is for Supervisor Gibson again. El Chorro is county property, if I am correct, and which is also public property. So what would happen if the unhoused just went there and camped out and just said, this is where I'm going to stay now? If there's no other place to move them, how could you then remove them legally? Thank you for your answer.
Well, at this hour of the evening, I would be loath to speculate, but within the specific requirements of our parks and recreation rules and regulations, I would imagine that there's an ability to remove someone from a public campground that's not paying the rent on that campground. But that would be, again, pure speculation on my part. And the short answer is I don't know for sure.
Thank you. Yael, you were up.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate what you already said. Locac is not a funding, cannot get any funding. It's that from all this time that I've been on Locac, I knew that we cannot handle money. So when we did our planting trees, for instance, in the community center, we had our own a non-profit that the mission statement was to finance what the trees and landscape is doing. So to answer Javier, we don't have this money. But something regarding the Choro, I was just thinking, and I know that I recommended it to Carolyn and to Blake, you know, is if the county can open few sites for use by people that can afford to pay at least part of the fees, so the park and rec will not lose funding. I know that some of the people in trailers could otherwise cannot park there because their trailers are very old. They try to park there, but if the county allows them, they probably will move there. And if you let them share a site, maybe they can have 2 or 3 on one side, and they can actually probably pay either all of the cost or some of the cost. And with the understanding that they're just like any other customer there. I think that that's totally feasible.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we do not have any regular agenda items. We have 2 business items and then we can adjourn. The only reason I put what is the role of Locac is I know that it's been on Nextdoor quite a bit on what is the role of Locac, what are they doing, what are, you know, so I'm thinking maybe outreach wise, we need to kind of put who we are, what is Locac, you know, we are an advisory group, what we're doing, kind of lead them back onto our page. Any other thoughts? Lynette, you have your hand up.
I did, because shouldn't we vote to accept the committee reports and the treasurer's report?
Oh, yes, we should. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report and the committee's reports?
I'll make that motion that we accept the treasurer's report and
So
all the
moved.
committee reports.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jim?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, and my computer's going crazy, but I can hear things and I don't hear any opposed. Deborah, do you have your hand up? Asked to unmute. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lynette. That was very helpful. And then business items. Any thoughts on Locac and how to get out who we are, what we are?
I think we've got information on our website.
We do.
Clearly spells it out. I think the people who don't know what Locac is are not making any effort to find out. They're just
Okay.
raising the question.
Okay.
See, that's why I think Jim was awesome.
Any other comments?
Sandra.
There she is. Okay, here I am. I was just gonna say, anytime I'm not on Nextdoor, I purposely stay away from it, but anytime there's anything on there, if anybody that is on it could just post, please visit locac.info. Just always keep redirecting people to the website at any point without getting into the banter, because Lynette does an amazing job of posting everything that's going on the website. Absolutely. Or telling them to subscribe, you know, a link to the newsletter, and then they can get updates. So I would just suggest anytime there's just keep linking the website or the most recent newsletter.
Okay, thank you. We have James. James?
Hi, yeah, thanks. I was just looking at the about page, the Locac's about page, and that might be a good place to, there is a nice description on the homepage, but it's a ways down the page.
Yeah.
If instead that description was put at the top of the about page, it might be a nice place for that to live.
Okay. Okay. We have, try to get these in order. We have Larry next.
Yeah, I
Did you
just
have some-
wanted to agree. Oh, I just
Go
wanted
ahead.
to agree with what I just wanted to agree with what's been said. You know, next door is what it is, and if anyone's really serious and wants to get the truth, you know, go to our webpage. You know, you want fake news, go to next door.
Perfect. Okay. Next is Javier.
Wait, the committee first, no?
Oh, committee first. Okay, Yael.
Sorry. Well, I wanted to agree and reiterate what Jim said, what Larry said, what Sandra said. I mean, when we moved here, we wanted to know what's going on in the town. We did not go to next door. We went to Locac from the very first month. And people live here for 20, 30 years and don't know Locac exists. What can you do? There's nothing you can do. And I can't reiterate as much how much of a fake news you get on next door. So just why would we even bother to be reconsidering who we are just because of next door? We've done
No,
so
I'm not
much.
trying to
We've
reconsider
done
who
so
we are,
much.
Yael. I'm just trying to
We've done so
promote.
much.
Okay.
We've done so much outreach. I mean, Sandra has been doing outreach. I mean, Lynette all the time reiterating. I mean, I see it because I do check next door. I don't participate anymore because it's a danger zone. But Lynette is doing great. Each time there is a confusion, she's, you know, level-headed. She gives the website. She says goes there. It doesn't help, you know. You can't get you can present the water to the horse. You can't get the horse, you know, to drink the water. What can I tell you? That's all I have
Okay.
to say.
Thank you. Next is Sue.
I would just like to say, since we're all putting in our 2 cents here, that as far as I see our role, I think it's to represent the community of Los Osos. And I think we should always put our own feelings aside and try to listen and hear comments and hear what people have to say and try to react accordingly. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Anyone else from the committee? All right. Javier.
I just wanted to say it's going to take a while for you guys to keep just linking in and putting stuff on there on Nextdoor, especially after this year. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of people upset, but you guys have to make that bridge. And the Nextdoor is one of those bridges that you guys have to keep on working on.
All right. Thank you very much. Dave and Bev.
Hi, it's Dave Bolus. Again, the Morro Bay City Council has a presence in the Estero Bay News, and Locac doesn't. And I don't know if there's a way that, you know, every 2 weeks, I mean, somebody would have to do some work to do this, and I am sorry to make somebody have to do that work, but it would be possible to put something in the Estero Bay News. I'm sure that they wouldn't mind having a little bit from Locac in there each issue. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we've got Patrick. Patrice. So sorry, I did that twice tonight.
It's okay. A lot of people do that. So actually, I was about to say the same thing that Dave was saying with regard to Estero Bay News. Not that everyone around reads it, but it is I think a very good venue, if you will, for voicing information about Locac, what Locac is about, and getting engagement in that way. So yeah, I second that idea that Dave put out to try to get maybe even a feature article about Locac's serving the community and all of that.
Thank you very much. Sandra.
Yeah, I mean, I've reached out to Estero Bay News. I rarely get any responses. They get our newsletters regularly. Randomly, I'll see like something about Locac in there, and I'm really happy to see it. But if anybody wants to also encourage Estero Bay News to reach out to us or reach out to me specifically, that would be great as well, because I know we've tried. And also sometimes there's not, I'll try to do another feature article about Locac in general. And then also, unless there's like specific issues or, news, sometimes there's just not news, and it's up to them whether they want to just announce our meetings, which I think they should. But again, I've tried, so please let them know they should be announcing what we're doing and our meeting times and everything as well, because they're getting the info.
All right, thank you. All right, I don't see any more hands. The last thing I have is just for the chair people of the committees. We did change the password due to technical issues exiting out of Zoom. So we needed to get that cleaned up. We will go ahead and get that sent out to everybody tonight. One word of warning is there's the little thing that says save password. Don't ever push that one. I can tell you firsthand, don't push that one. And always when you're done, exit completely and sign out on all devices when you're done. So that's kind of the rules. Anything else from the committee?
Sandra.
Sandra? Oops, there you are.
Sorry, I have to keep muting because I have background noise. But yeah, to echo that, it's not just signing out, but you have to go back into your profile page and sign out. So it's not just ending the meeting, but you have to go into zoom.us, I think, on the website, get into that profile and sign out. So it's like a two-step process to clarify how to actually sign out of the account.
Yes, it takes quite a few more steps than I knew. So I probably killed our account, but now we have new passwords. They'll go out tonight or first thing in the morning. Anything else?
On a motion to adjourn.
I second that. I second that. All right. Thank you, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good
night.
Thank you.